Hello there, folks. Patricia here. And today I want to talk a little bit about, are you pressing the mute button on yourself? Because when it's time for us to speak up about the things that we care about, um, there are lots of reasons why we might not do it. And sometimes the leading answer is we're muting ourselves. It's not actually something come from something externally. So I want to explore that a little bit right now. And this whole conversation around advocacy is one that I've been wanting to have more of anyways. And so we definitely will. And particularly in light of everything that's going on in the world right now, right? And folks feeling like they're muted because or being prevented from speaking their mind and doing, thinking uh, or following up on what they're thinking and all of the things because there's just craziness. There's lots of editing going on in the world right now, particularly here in the U.S. There's lots of not even just contradicting, but just flat out telling someone they're wrong for believing a certain thing a certain way, um, and or telling them that it's not really happening. I mean, like all kinds of craziness, right? And so when you're speaking up and wanting to speak up about those things, sometimes there's some there are some things standing in the way of doing that fully. And I want to explore a little bit of that today and also what you can do uh, to in response and to overcome those moments because you absolutely deserve uh, to be and to feel fully empowered to speak up on your behalf of yourself, on behalf of the things you care about, on behalf of others. Okay. But before we go diving into that, please remember to hit the thumbs up and like button and subscribe to help push this Revive channel out to more folks who are looking for these topics and wanting to share and have conversations about these types of things that affect them in their everyday lives, in their professional careers, um, in their professional relationships, and just as people, literally just as people, and want to make sure to take action and do those things that will help build them up, build themselves up, empower them more, and share those empowering skills and abilities with others. Okay. All right. So here's the thing when we're talking about speaking up and being an advocate, it's not about just being a loudmouth and just or being a bully and saying all the things like right, those all those things that are negative, that have negative connotations with it. Because speaking up on behalf of someone could be as simple as stepping in when someone's accusing someone of something that you know not to be true. You can be like, hey, I can vouch for the fact that this did not happen. Or perhaps someone's, potentially about to be in harm's way, or someone's being bullied for expressing themselves, and you might step up to say, hey, I believe what they believe, or I agree with that, and but we can still be civil, whatever it might be. It could be any range of things, right? There are moments in our lives that we face each and every day, where we can be advocates. I know that I've done it many times down through the years, with my own kids, um, with family, especially like when family members have been in and out of the hospital, and being able to, say, hey, I'm here on their behalf and I have questions I need to ask, and I would like an answer to, right? That's what speaking up is all about. That's what being an advocate is all about. Yes, it can definitely happen on the professional level in society on social justice issues regarding legislative matters, all of those things. But that skill set Like, it starts at home. It can absolutely start small at home, in your personal life, in your community, and definitely speaking up for yourself in your professional life and career, whether that is, you know, making sure that the right person gets credit for a project that was happening. I mean, those get sticky, right? When people are trying to claim other people's work, or helping to make sure someone else's voice is heard, making sure your own voice is heard, because sometimes, people may think, oh, they're just trying to lay claim. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to lay claim. I'm trying to make sure that the work that I have done gets credited to me. That came up in a meeting very recently. And, and I had a private conversation later with, the other person. I'm like, hey, I wasn't trying to, be, to cause strife or to make you look bad. I just needed, this fact to be known for several reasons, and make it clear, where the source of that resource came from. It can be it can be that simple. But I know that so many people have a problem with it. They don't feel confident with it, or they're scared about what may happen as a result, right? The retribution. Um, uh, there are so many things, so many reasons, right? Fear, confidence, lack of skill, or just not being sure, not being comfortable. I'm like, I'm not really sure. Is it even worth doing that? And I will say and let you know, all of those things are very valid and very real. Okay. And that's why I always encourage folks to start small. If you have no background at all in being an advocate for someplace else or someone else, do it. Start with yourself, right? Think about those times when you have stepped up and had to speak up on your own behalf. Or maybe that's something you need to do more of these days. Step up and speak up more, and where can you do that on a daily basis? And again, this is not about causing a scene, or or being difficult. This is literally just about exercising a muscle that will help you to be and feel more courageous, and to build your confidence, because the step beyond, speaking up for yourself is speaking up for others. If you have kids, or you have a family member or something like that, a lot of times that's where that will show up more quickly than others, right? We're going to speak up on behalf of our family or our kids more than likely. But then when that skill starts to, or that need starts to translate and transfer to situations in the community, right? Or a cause that you believe strongly in, and you want to do more, then that's where people can start to be a little more uncomfortable, because it literally means, probably having to use your voice, your physical voice, to speak up on behalf. And some people aren't comfortable doing that, especially if they're like, oh, I'm not a public speaker, all of those things, right? I have tons of content in my coffee chat library that I can direct you towards about, you know, uh, there is a series about advocacy and speaking up, so I will put a link to that. But also just about uh, knowing, when, and building that confidence, exercising that muscle, because it's important. If you don't practice, just like with anything else, if you don't practice, you don't get better at it. So you got to start somewhere. So figure out where you can start. It may be someplace smaller. And I'm talking about this in the context of, there are so many people who want to be able to do more with the things that they see that are going wrong in our country, here in the US, or that they don't agree with. And maybe you can't, you know, verbally stand up at a city council meeting or whatever, but you can send an email telling your feelings. You can leave a voicemail or a phone call. You can sign a petition. Like there are so many other ways to engage and to be an advocate, and that sometimes people say, oh, but that doesn't really count. Sure, it does. Sure, it does, because it's when you put together one voice plus another, like that builds. There's power in those numbers, right? And so when we say you have to start somewhere, you literally have to start somewhere with one person, with one group, with one activity, and then build upon itself. So don't ever discount what you bring to the table. And when you start that, then how powerful that can be. I am almost done with, I'm reading Cecile Richards' kind of, it's not an autobiography fully, but her memoir. And she's talking about how her mother, the uh, uh, former governor of Texas many years ago, Ann Richards, who was just endeared because, she was just like, she was bigger than life. I'm trying to think of all the words to describe it. But she was just bigger than life. But her step onto the political stage, she did not grow up in a political family or whatever. She grew up and taught her kids to grow up about caring and speaking up for other people. So that's where she started getting involved with, you know, uh, with causes and things that they believed in, and how she passed that down to her kids literally by dragging them along to marches and to, sit-ins and rallies and all of that type of thing. And that all throughout this time, majority of that life leading up, before she ever stepped foot into politics, she was a housewife raising 4 kids. I think it was 4. Yeah. And but once she started using her voice and speaking up, people started recognizing it and saying, hey, there's something there, and like she has some skills and some skill sets or whatever. And she started doing it on the regular basis until she got asked to actually run for office. It's fascinating. It's absolutely fascinating. And to see that through her daughter's eyes, and it's just a different perspective, right? And it's what has really just reminded me, like, there's so much power in that, because just by you being willing to step up, be courageous, go do a thing, you never know who's watching you, who is getting um empowered by seeing you take action. And that is a confidence builder all on its own. I love that piece for sure, especially when it means having young people, but even if it's older folks who have never stepped up for themselves, right? So I think it's really important to do that. Now, when it comes to this whole, but are you silencing yourself? Right? Maybe it's not somebody out externally that's silencing you. Maybe you're silencing yourself. Why? Because you're scared, right? Maybe it's just because you're fearful of what could happen, the retribution, or maybe it's because you're unsure as to like what to say and when and how, right? Um, there can be so many different reasons, all of which I will say, do not allow them to get in the way of fulfilling the desire to speak up, to let your voice be heard, to let your thoughts be known in those issues and concerns and causes that you care about, because there's nothing worse than silencing yourself. Like you're not even giving someone else an opportunity to have you be heard, and you're already saying, nope, what I have to say is not good enough. Nope, what I have to say or what I have to offer it doesn't really amount to anything, so I'm not going to do that. Right? Recognize those lies that we feed ourselves when we're scared, because that's what they are, and instead say, but what could be if I were to speak up? Like, what's a good thing that could happen, as opposed to assuming all the worst case scenarios. And when we're being challenged growth wise, because I'm talking about being an advocate for yourself and others, but we are absolutely at the forefront of silencing ourselves when it means to speak up would help us to grow. Like, it's a part of the growth process. I own having done that. I grew up um, having lots of opinions and thoughts and things, but I was not always the very vocal one. I was actually very quiet and reserved. Nobody believes that, but it's true. But I joined the speech and debate team when I was in high school, not because I was like, oh, rah, rah, all that, but because I'm like, well, I want to be a lawyer. So if I want to be a lawyer, I have to be able to talk in front of people, right? I mean, that was literally the reason why I did it. And I started off small and different things. And I was like, oh my gosh, until I found the area and the practice that I just fell in love with. Believe it or not, extemporaneous speaking, one of the more difficult things, where someone could just come to you, say, here's a topic, write me a speech on it. You got 30 minutes prepared, then come give the speech. That's literally how I was trained. And that is the area that I fell in love with. And that has supported me throughout my life and my career, and helped me to be able to do things, to write speeches, not just for myself, but for people that I've worked for. And I've never been a speechwriter. Speech writing is not a part of my job description formally anywhere, but it happened. That's what happened. And being able to engage in critical thinking and take what you learn and research and put it into words that can be spoken, it's so powerful. And I get it. That's not everybody's thing. And I'm not saying it has to be, but that also doesn't mean it can't be a little bit of your thing. Like, you may not be giving hour-long speeches at commencements and graduations, but to be able to say for 2 minutes in front of a city council, hey, I don't agree with what's being proposed here, and I would like for you all not to go forward with this, right? Can be just as effective and just as powerful for the cause for which it's being used. So don't silence yourself. Step up to the plate in terms of addressing the thing that makes you feel uncomfortable, that scares you a little bit, and say, okay, that's fine. And, and I'm going to do something that's going to help me grow. I can spend so much more time on this. Uh, and don't worry, there will be more conversations about speaking up, using your voice, and advocacy. I think I've stated in other videos that I'm going to return to one of my advocacy series from years and years ago. I'm going to redo it, re record it, so that it can be utilized as a training for people who are wanting to step up, to build out their their advocacy skills, to exercise that muscle, and help them to do it in a way that so that they can be authentic and to have their voice heard um, on the issues that they care about and that matter to them. Okay. So I'd love to hear from you. How do you feel about speaking up on issues that concern you? What are your hesitations in doing that? And where would you need the most support? Right? I always make assumptions about this, and sometimes I have people that come and bring me fresh things, and I really want to hear that, because I don't like having to or putting something out there that's not actually supporting what people need right now today. And so I would love to hear from you on what support do you need to face the challenges of speaking up for yourself and others, and making sure that you're not silencing yourself or giving in to the external pressures of folks who, would try to have you be quiet. All right. So I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Until then, please remember to celebrate who you are each and every day. Take one step, do one thing that will truly elevate who you are at your core and remind you that you can be fully empowered to live your best life and to do so authentically and on purpose. All right, take care. We'll talk again in the next video.